Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to do roll call. Alderman Lewis. Here. Alderman Alderman. Here. Alderman Bell. Here. Alderman Wilson.
Here.
Alderman Plank. Here. And Alderman Bocart.
Here.
Can I get a motion to approve the February 21st, 2023 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Special items, Kip Brady, YMCA annual report.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me here tonight. I was talking about when I walked in, their old stomping ground, so it's kind of fun to be back here when this all started with the YMCA. It's funny now to look back 2 years from when we left here to where we're at now. So anyway, thanks for having me here tonight. And in your package, you guys should have got my report sent out to you guys. What that was, again, is our contract currently with the city. And what I did was went through there and kind of highlight everything that we've done that was in our contract with the city. So I won't read every item. I'll try to make this as short and sweet as possible, but hit the highlights. So $12,000 that you guys give to us every year with the contractual services, we have fulfilled about every item, I believe, in our contract. What's really cool is 2015 when we started, I was the only full-time employee. Now we fast forward 7 years, we have 7 full-time employees. Again, and that's with our community fundraising money, that's with the city commitment to the Y, and all that money has contributed to where we're at now. So currently, we have 7 full-time employees, about 45 part-time employees, 2 of which serve on the Chamber of Commerce, Farron Griffin and Sabrina Kelder. Currently, we're at an all-time high on membership units at 1,679, and about 4,000 total individuals. So we have not flatlined yet. We have continued to increase memberships, and we continue to do so. Again, it's all because of programs that we've created. Again, you know, the Y is more than just that gym that we have. It's all the programs that encompasses the YMCA. So what you see, again, in front of you is the programs that we currently offer. Our K-8 Y Club program, we've now switched that program to more of kindergarten through 5th grade. That's where we find that that's the need, is the K through 5th, with about 25 kids on our waiting list. So we've got a few things in the pipeline trying to expand our Y Club. We currently run 2 summer camps, one here in Ashland, which houses about 85 kids a year, and also a summer camp in Columbia now called Camp Mud, that we have at the Camp Takamina campground north of Columbia. One of the coolest, biggest items that we do now is our Saturday night Kids Night Out program. That once a month is a program for parents to bring their kids to if they need daycare for Saturday night and to go out. So a very popular program. One thing they're working on here in the near future, we haven't really done anything with youth and government yet, and that's something that's been on our list. But we'd like to establish a kind of a youth board of directors with the YMCA. So we've got a couple plans in place there. Upcoming here pretty shortly, we have a fishing and archery clinic that we're offering in April. Let me backtrack for just a second. So this past year we hired our new sports director, Mitch Baumschen. If you haven't met Mitch yet, Mitch is a rock star. He is from Kansas, so don't hold that against him. But he has been doing tremendous things with the YMCA, and we hired him basically to now brainstorm new ideas and new sports. So we got the fishing and archery coming up, along with slow pitch softball coming up this summer, which I know we've been talking with James Creel about. So we are excited about that, to offer that in City Park. Community participation is very vital to what we do in collaborating with our community. We participated in the Parents and Teachers Winter Warm-Up, the PTA Carnival this past year. We've raised money for our outreach program, and what that is, again, is scholarships that we give out to kiddos and families that cannot afford membership or programs at the Y. That's for members or non-members. We run our 5K race, which we had 85 participants in that this past year, our most ever. We now offer 4 scholarships to graduating seniors in high school, totaling $1,000. One of the biggest things we're also proud of is our Run Walk Club. Once a quarter, we go around town and pick up trash around the community and clean that up. We have a day coming up here in April, around Earth Day, that we will meet again and typically we have about 30 people that meet for that Earth Day cleanup, so I'm excited for that. This past year, we raised $38,000 in our golf tournament. In the past, the money that we raised for that went towards our outreach program. We were finding that the need was more important with our capital campaign, trying to raise funds for the building. So this past year, the funds went towards our capital campaign, which is $38,000. Some other items of note here this past year, again, working with the city on the TAP grant. We're excited to see that now is going to come to fruition, and that's going to continue on with the school district as well. We assisted with the fundraising efforts of the police department and the K-9 unit. I know right now it's kind of stalled a little bit, but if that does come back to the table, we would love to be a partner with that again and try and help raise those dollars. Farmers market is another item that we have managed with the city and we're Regions Bank. I don't think it was last year, but 2 years ago, Governor Parson came down and attended our Rankin Tech presentation in our turf room, so it was very cool to have the governor in our YMCA. Another big item that we do with the community is our Chamber Days barbecue that we will host in April. This past year we held the fireworks show. Again, talking to Mayor Slinker about that. We would love to be a part of that again. I think that was fantastic last year. We're trying to figure out, again, what date we want to do, but I think that was great for the city, great for the Y, great for all those involved, and very, very cool item to have that September fireworks, but it was neat. Another perk that we offer to our City of Ashland, our police force, which, again, they're not Ashland employees, or City of Ashland employees, but we do give those firefighters and police force 24/7 access to our facility. We want to help those that help us out. Sports-wise, again, jiu-jitsu, soccer, volleyball, wrestling, tennis, as you see here in your packet, flag football, kickball, golf lessons, baseball, softball, tumbling, the list goes on, running club. Those are all programs we've offered this past year. Some new programs that we started, tackle football, that transitioned from the Southern Boone football. I don't know who was running it, it was a club or whatnot, but that transitioned to the YMCA this past year. We had 95 kids in that, very successful. Our junior MBA program we started this year, had 81 kids in that in grades 1st through 4th grade. And then another thing we're trying to do is offering little programs, so little spikers, little ballers, little kickers, all these little programs for ages 3 through 6. So we're finding that's a niche here in town. Those parents want to keep their kids involved with something instead of having to travel to Columbia or Jeff City, so we're trying to create these little programs, and so far they've been very successful. Rebecca's classes have been an all-time high. Our Silver Sneakers, one of our most popular classes that's attended daily by mostly seniors, but it's a fantastic class. In the future, we are looking at building a basketball gym, starting to fundraise for that hopefully in a couple of years. Again, I know there's a lot of talk about a pool in town, and I would love to, whether that's passing a bond or partnering with the city on that, but those are things that will come in the future, but we'd love to be a part of the solution to try to build that pool in town. So, I will answer any questions that you guys have, or go into more detail on anything that's here in front of you. You just let me know.
I got a question.
Yes, sir, Lauren.
What's the secret to raising $38,000 at your golf tournament? How did you raise it?
A village of people.
Village of people.
A lot of great volunteers. Sponsorships is the main driver in that, having different packages up to $5,000 in some of our sponsorship packages. But a lot of eager golfers. This past year we had a music band, we had zeros, all you can eat, dinner and drinks. But honestly, in order to pull something like that off, it takes a lot of volunteers. With Stephanie Bell on our board, she's one of those that assists and volunteers her time and efforts. And when you have a objective and a mission, people get behind you and support what you're doing. And we've got, again, just great support here in the community. A lot of volunteers.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
What, the next phase, you mentioned basketball court,
Yep.
is that the main part of it?
Yeah, so this summer, we've got plans to put the walking trail in, again, along with the TAP grant. So the walking trail, we had a large donation for our ball fields, so the plans to put the 3 football/soccer fields behind our property. That will go in also this summer. And then also we're expanding our parking lot to the north side. But then the next big phase would be the basketball gym. So we're working right now now on getting schematics and designs drawn up. Of course, with the cost of COVID driving everything up, the bid we got back on that was extremely high, higher than expected. But the thought is to get our plans, start looking at them, and then eventually start the next phase of fundraising. So that'll be the basketball gym, the indoor walking track, and then more office space. So right now, we currently have 7 full-time. Mitch, our sports director, he works out of a closet in the turf room. Sabrina works off-site at Walking Faith Church. So again, the need for more office space. Go back to this current facility. Derek Portal, the closet back there originally, so you never have enough storage and office space. But it's a good problem to have. Means we're doing something right, and we're growing our employment here. So we're excited for that. But.
Questions? Thanks, sir.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much again, and we love being, collaborative efforts in the city, and hopefully the fun. Hopefully you guys are reaping benefits, and you're seeing that the money's going to a good cause and good use. So. All right, I'm going home to Xbox with my son. He's mad. Thank you guys so much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Moving on to the budget.
Tonight, we're going to do the last couple funds for department head requests. Give you some time to digest all of that and give us some input, and if not, we're just going to move it into the preliminary budget. So our next meeting, we will have a work session for the preliminary budget. Kyle and I have some review to do on the preliminary budget, just to make sure that everything is included, and to look at some things that may carry over from this year to next year that the department heads may have not taken into consideration. So there may be some small changes here and there. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the Park and Recreation Fund. And the purpose of this is the receipt of tax revenues for maintenance, repair, and construction of city parks. And it provides partial funding for Public Works Department staff to complete the work within the city park system. And James is on Zoom, so we will unmute him. The proposal as the Parks and Recreation Division is currently underway with the master planning process for the capital improvement. No capital improvement projects have been determined for fiscal year '24, but if you noticed on the budget, there were funds allocated for capital projects. The hope is that once that master plan document is completed completely and reviewed by the Park Board and the Council, that there might be a couple projects in there that you guys would want to complete. So, Melissa, if you would take that back to the Park Board, I would appreciate that. And James, do you have anything to add on parks?
Just one thing, it's not really even related to the budget, well, slightly, I guess. Received notification yesterday that CXT is ready to deliver the restroom at the park. So we are trying to make arrangements to get that completed towards the end of next week.
The next one we're going to go over is the Stormwater Fund. This is the receipt of sales tax revenues for maintenance, repair, and construction of city stormwater infrastructure improvements, and to provide partial funding for the Public Works Department staff and to complete work for the city's stormwater system. The Stormwater Division is currently preparing to begin the Oak Street project, Phase 1. Due to the scale of this project, it will need to be split into 2 separate phases, one this fiscal year and then one in 26 and 27. This project will be completed by the Public Works staff at a savings of approximately $100,000, and then there is a cost estimate for that project. And James, I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
Thank you, Shelley. Regarding the Oak Street stormwater project, we've went back and forth discussing various aspects of this, and the reason that we need to break it into 2 phases is simply due to the cost. I mean, it's pretty extensive with the installation of several stormwater inlet boxes and pipe. Most of this is going to be installed underneath of Oak Street to help carry the water through that area without it backing up. So because of that, we split it into two phases. The trick with that, though, is that you have to pay for engineering up front. You really have to engineer both phases in order to know where you need to split it. Engineering costs strictly for phase one are indicated at approximately $7,263. Materials, we're estimating at $50,000 based off of, and these come from the engineer's estimate directly from Allstate. Just under $7,500 worth of contingency funds and $3,000 allocated for easements or legal issues brings us with a project total of $67,743 for phase one portion. As I've mentioned earlier, the engineering for both phases, we're working through that right now. We're actually going to be able to take care of most of that on the current fiscal year, wrap it up and have it out of the way. So this, with the projected revenues for Stormwater Fund, after paying all the administratively related items that Shelley handles, we're able to get this project with these numbers in this fiscal budget for phase one.
Just to elaborate a little bit more on what James was saying, is if you recall, the initial contract with Allstate was $47,000 for the engineering. So we talked to Allstate, and again, the project has to be engineered in total. It cannot be broken up in phases. So they're completing the engineering on that project, and we've requested that invoice for this fiscal year to be able to pay all but the $72.63. So we'll get that engineering out of the way, move on to phase one. Once that's completed, then we can discuss what is going to be needed for phase two over the next coming fiscal years, so we can get that completed.
I have a question about the project.
I'm sorry?
I have a question about the project. Is this going to address some of the concerns of the residents that we've heard in the recent past?
Yes, ma'am. That's always been a problematic area. You have the confluence of the majority of our stormwater coming through town at the bottom of three separate hills, where it eventually carries over and ties into MoDOT's infrastructure along Highway 63 and ultimately out of town and on into the creek. The installation of a lot of this in phase one will address, there's a house right there at the corner that has a very low-lying yard. I've been in conversation with them about some different things we can do to build up their front yard and help push that water into our system rather than let it go towards their house. The larger, higher capacity inlet boxes and pipes will help to carry that water through rather than allow it to pond and pool in that area. But this first phase one, we anticipate seeing improvements to at least 2 residents right there at the intersection of Oak and Johnston, and possibly a third on the backside as it comes out towards the highway. So I need to discuss that a little more in detail with our consultant, but I believe that the way that this was built, yeah, that's right, because there was the driveway culvert that would be replaced also in phase one, and that would help the next fiscal year and work on another identified project, be that Caspian or Meadowmere or something to that effect, and then in later fiscal years come back and complete phase 2.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? The street fund, receipt of sales for fuel, road use, and motor vehicle licensing, taxes, revenues for maintenance, repair, and construction of city streets. And they provide the majority of funding for the public works staff. One thing that I do want to bring to your attention, because we are talking about a tax issue for the ballot, is the transportation tax that the street gets, and also the county tax, the road improvement tax that we get from them. It cannot be used for salaries. So the street department is paid from the revenues from the taxes from motor vehicle sales and motor fuel. So that's one thing to keep in mind as we go forward with the street budget. In fiscal year '24, the street division will primarily focus on major thoroughfares throughout the city, along with resuming the annual mill and overlay projects, shoulder paving along South Henry Clay Boulevard, purchase of a cold planer skid loader, attachment for permanent pothole repairs. And then James has a list of things that he would like to do this fiscal year. So James, go ahead.
Thank you, Shelley. One of the areas that we've also been trying to focus on outside of capital projects is personnel development. As many of you may be aware, recently the FHWA changed the requirements for CDL licensing. We have one staff member within the streets division at the moment who does not have his CDL, and that's going to be a little more costly to get for him and get that training than it was in the past. We're also going to send some staff to MoDOT technician certification training. That will allow us to utilize in-house staff for various observation and testing during like the Perry Avenue project, the TAP grant project, anything that has MoDOT or federal dollars with it, then we can utilize our own staff for some of that testing and save some money there just by bringing some more things in-house. OSHA certifications listed here. That's not something that we're required to do, but it's really a best practice. As I tell the guys, OSHA makes these rules because something happened, and we want to make sure we aren't a reason that OSHA has a rule one day. And even though we are exempt from OSHA certification and a lot of their standards and guidelines, if something bad were to happen, someone get hurt, seriously hurt, or have a problem of that nature, they can still come back down on us. So those are some of the certifications that we want to get the guys through, and then along with annually attending the safety summit down in Springfield. That's always a pretty informative conference for the guys to get. We do some of our OSHA, we do all of our OSHA competent person training at that conference. It's free. We just have to pay for our fuel and hotel. Building improvements at APW, we want to continue to work on completely encapsulating the property with the chain link fence. We're going to get some cameras installed just to kind of help protect the property and whatever assets that we may have outside. We try and keep as much of that inside as we can, but there isn't enough room for everything. And then just some general housekeeping stuff, some drywall patching and painting, things trying to bring that office back up a little nicer. For street maintenance, outside of the large-scale projects that Shelley mentioned a minute ago, I'll get into those shortly. We're going to continue. We did a pretty good job this year with concrete patches. We're going to continue that. A lot of preparation for street resurfacing, and then asphalt patches, which ties in with the cold planer. If you're not familiar, a cold planer is what's commonly referred to as a milling head. And what that'll allow us to do is, as we continue to see, with the high heat then of the summer, we continue to see street heaves pop up just because of the Boone County clay and how it, how it moves with the wet and dry seasons. planer, we would be able to go out and mill these heaves down until we could get back and make a permanent repair. This last year we had one over Set Meadows that was pretty significant, and we had to stop what we were doing to go over and take care of it. This is just another tool to allow us to address the various road issues that come up. It will also allow for us to work on asphalt patching along South Henry Clay Boulevard. That'll be required before we're able to chip seal that road. Chip and sealing South Henry Clay is going to be our best option to try and increase the longevity out of South Henry Clay. But long term, we are looking at identifying some funding mechanisms to do a complete overhaul of South Henry Clay at some point in the future. And then the last thing I'll say about the cold planer is that ever since I started here, the process has been, when there's a pothole, you get some cold patch and you go fill it, and then eventually you come back and you cut it out and you do a full depth street patch. And as we continue to get more and more asphalt overlays throughout town, one of my biggest pet peeves is a nice, beautiful asphalt street with a gray concrete patch in the middle of it. So what we'll be able to do is mill those potholes out and then patch them properly with hot mix asphalt and some type of tack adhesion, and make a permanent repair versus a Band-Aid fix. I'm tired of throwing money away for cold patch when it's just going to pop out the first time we hit it with a snowplow anyways. And then going into the capital projects, I mentioned South Henry chip sealing that road, and we're also looking to mill and overlay Billy Joe Sapp Drive along with Christie Lane. Those two have been on our radar for quite some time, and unfortunately with Perry Ave, we weren't able to do them this year. Speaking of Perry Ave, I think that any day now we're going to be told we can bid this thing. So as soon as we get that, we'll be moving ahead with the Perry Avenue project. Due to the longevity and how long this thing's dragged out, we are going to wind up in our next fiscal year paying for it and completing the project over the course of the summer. And I'll leave that to Shelley to kind of explain why the numbers look the way they do, because it involves Perry Avenue and money moving back into the budget and then being reallocated for that next fiscal year. And then I'll also make mention of the TAP grant project with the YMCA and the school district. We will be financing that project up front and then collecting those reimbursements from MoDOT. That's why the Y and the school district.
James? Okay, well, I think we lost James for a minute. So let's talk a little bit about his capital projects. As you reviewed this, you saw that the street department for next fiscal year is going to have a deficit of $319,176.14. And I know that that's a little bit scary for us, because we wanted to make sure that the street department had enough funds available to be able to do some other, do things as they went forward or as they accumulated funds. The problem is Perry Avenue. So Perry Avenue's projected cost is $805,000 and some change. The city is paying $402,000 of that. The school and EDA are paying a portion of that, and MoDOT is paying $10,000 of that, which they are giving us in credits. So the holdup with the project is the Missouri Department of Transportation. When you get involved with the Missouri Department of Transportation in anything, you know that you have to go by their guidelines. So we are at the point right now where we have done our due diligence. It has been engineered. We have received all of the easements that we need to receive, and everything has been submitted to the Missouri Department of Transportation for review. They have not gotten back to us, so Great Rivers, who is the engineering firm, has not been able to put it out for bid. Therefore, the project will be delayed until next fiscal year. I also wanted you to recognize the fact that this 1,200 feet of street is not just a couple $100,000. It is an over an $800,000 project, and as time goes on, we all know projects increase with price. So we don't know what the bids are gonna be when they come back. That'll be a different conversation that we'll have to have. But right now, we budgeted for that for this next fiscal year because that's when the construction will start, and that will be the majority of the cost of the project. With that, the street department has done really well this fiscal year in not overspending, and so they will be contributing to their fund balance, not just because they thought they were gonna start this project this fiscal year, but also they've been very good with their spending throughout this fiscal year, so they will have enough to contribute to be able to have enough in their fund balance to fund both of these projects. Also, the street chip seal and mill overlay, James estimated that would be about a $300,000 expenditure
For all three?
for all three. So, I will say this, there isn't gonna be any leeway in the street budget. I mean, there's not gonna be anything extra, there's not gonna be any, oh, hey, we need to go fix this street. Because if we do that, then we've gotta take something else that is on this list off. So this is what it is, for what he's planning on doing this next fiscal year. So I know streets is something of a hot topic, so know that we have to finish Perry Avenue, know we have to finish the TAP project and all the funds. And I think this is something else that's important to realize, is that all of the funds, all the expenditures come through the city. So we have to expend the money out and then get the money back.
Is James back?
Yes.
He's back.
Okay, James, can you explain, we had that conversation about the curb and gutter thing in Columbia.
Yep.
Can you,
So, yes, what happened was, we had initially allocated $100,000 out of our ARPA funds to complete a curb and gutter repair project throughout town. And that we were going to utilize Watson Concrete, who had a cooperative agreement contract with the city of Columbia for concrete repairs, sidewalk, curb and gutter, and so forth. We had scheduled that for this month, for March, and I followed up with them here a month or so back just to make sure we were still on track, and was informed that they ended up nullifying the contract with the city of Columbia, and the reason for that was that there were some disagreements regarding the increased cost of concrete and how that played into the contract.
so that's this budget year, though.
I'm sorry?
That's this budget year, so then what's our plan for fixing that still?
So it is still a project that needs to be completed. As we go through the process with the ARPA funds and see where we end up utilizing them for matching funds, for sewer plant expansion, or what have you, if we have funds available left over out of ARPA funding, then we will utilize them for that project. At this point, though, based on the information that's come through since then, we've now had to reallocate those funds for matching funds to chase some grants for the wastewater expansion. That being said, I'm hopeful that Watson or whoever will get back to a cooperative contract with the city for this type of work. It's really their specialty, and they can do it a lot faster than we can. But my staff is able to do curb and gutter repair, and we'll continue to do curb and gutter repair, spot repair as it comes up. You and I have discussed a couple that are in need. I've discussed several aldermen that are in need. One windfall, I guess, if you will, is that with the mild winter that we've experienced, that we did not use hardly any of our salt. So I do not anticipate purchasing any salt in FY '24, and accordingly, that frees up about $15,000 that can be used for materials to go right back to various concrete repairs, such as the curb and gutter. So we won't be able, if things go right, won't have the ARPA funds available for the curb and gutter because we'll have been awarded a grant and have to use them for our matching funds for wastewater expansion. However, we can we can direct city staff to continue to work more on those curb and gutter repairs. It just won't be to the scope that it would have been with the contract with Watson.
May I suggest, Alderman Bell, that if there's something on here that if you feel that that project, that curb and gutter project takes a higher priority than what he has on here, then may I suggest that you send those recommendations to myself and to Kyle, because again, this is just department head request, so if we have to amend this and before it goes into the preliminary budget, now is the time to do that.
Yeah.
There isn't going to be any extra money in streets to do curb and gutter as it sets right now.
Yeah, and that's why I asked the question.
Right.
And I think, I've been getting some complaints, and I think, I don't understand enough about streets, but I know in particular where we're having some curb and gutter complaints, it's where we did the overlays already.
Right.
And so I worry, like, where those two things meet up, if we don't go ahead and do the curb and gutter, are we gonna have problems? And, we just invested all this money in overlay, are we gonna ruin the investment we just put down by not also doing the curb and gutter? So should it go ahead of, potentially ahead of this? And so when you said there are no more funds, I know that's something that we have an issue with right now, we're gonna have to figure out, so.
Yeah, so I think just, feel strongly about that and send it to us, and then address the streets that those are on, because if those happen after an overlay was done to those streets, then that's something that we can obviously go back and revisit.
So the company he mentioned, is that the only company that can do it?
It just had very competitive pricing
Yeah.
to do that cooperative contract is the issue that we're running into.
So we're running, well, on Christie Lane, I have 3 or 4 of my neighbors that are fixing their own.
And that was
So, and I'll elaborate on that. Part of our, on the last slide, we have, we talked about concrete patches. Curb gutter are really nothing more than concrete patches. It's just different forming. And it's stuff that we can do in-house for Christie Lane. Obviously Christie Lane has a lot of bad curb and gutter. And that was what, really, Christie Lane is the one that brought up the whole project to begin with. And then we started looking at spreading that throughout town. But, to maybe assuage concerns, when a street is milled and overlaid, what they do is they come in and they do like a 3-foot wide edge milling. And that mills out all that, bad concrete off the top, which is where we're seeing the deterioration for the most part. We can come back then and cut along that curb line with the curbs with our saw and utilize the breaker to bust that up and then pull that out and re-pour that curb and gutter. It's actually pretty easy to do. It's easier to do on driveways than it is on other sections because our forms are already set on each end. It's really just breaking out a hole, clearing it out, putting in pins, and then pouring the concrete back in and shaping it to where it works out better for the homeowner in the long run because it's a smoother transition from the street to their driveway, and they're pretty easy.
Well, and that was one of the, part of James and I's conversation earlier this week, because it's actually in front of my driveway, I've got a big thing, and some of my neighbors are having the same problem. And so clarity for the residents, because I said, if it's my issue, I'm happy to call and have it repaired, but if it's the city's issue and I'm not supposed to touch it, then I want to know that too. So, and I think residents are confused, and also, so I don't know if the people down the street that are also having the issue, if it's on them or on the city. So James is going to provide some clarity, so that way, if it's on the property owner, they can go ahead and get it done, and then we're not on the hook for it.
Yep. And I've checked. It is the curb and gutter. It's a city responsibility. It's not in the approach. But, like I said, they're pretty easy to do. There's just a lot of them throughout town to do. So we'll have to, with limited funds, we'll have to pick and choose and really, the nature of the beast is the streets that are planning to have resurfacing get the most attention. But, certainly we don't want to neglect our streets that we've already done resurfacing to, and we will be coming back to address those as they come up.
I think it would probably be helpful to send a list, so we can at least sit down and prioritize and look funds that he has available for concrete and asphalt patching would be available for that, if any, depending on, because that's the other issue, is do you fix that, or, you know, this fiscal year, or wait next fiscal year, or do you fix the potholes and the, so.
Do you want streets or do you want addresses, like, as close as you can get us?
Yeah.
Unless James is abundantly aware of which ones he needs to be looking at. Okay, all right.
And that way
We've marked them out multiple times and then kept getting delayed for the Watson project. I mean, that's a project we've been chasing for a couple of years, and it was just delay after delay after delay, and now unfortunately it's gone. But Kurt and I are both well aware of the majority of them. They've been marked out multiple times with white paint.
All right. Sounds good. The sewer fund, receipt revenues for providing sanitary sewer service to utility customers, provide funding for establishing and maintaining a sanitary sewer utility and the associated activities with that utility. In fiscal year '24, the sewer division will primarily focus on the wastewater treatment. Well, we won't be focusing on that expansion. The staff will be looking into the architectural and costs to that expansion, along with the inflow and infiltration remediation efforts. Replacement of the facility components is needed, and purchase a dump trailer for biosolids and disposable, and for future land programs. So if you look at the list of things that James is going to go over with you, there's a couple goals this year for the sewer budget. One is maintenance, getting everything up to par and up to speed in the entire sewer division. And then number two, it's for staff work sessions to begin efforts on our wastewater treatment plant and the expansion that is going to happen in the next several fiscal years. And if you were here when the wastewater treatment plant was built, you understand this is a multi-year process. It doesn't happen within a year. After going through engineering and then funding and actually starting work, it is a multi-year process. So that'll be something that we will be all talking about this fiscal year as far as what we can do and where we're going to get the funding for that plant. But the majority of the sewer fund this year will go for maintenance and making sure that everything is functioning at 100%. So, James?
Yep, so, you know, as probably is not much of a surprise to many, this fiscal year, we had a lot of cleanup to do. I won't really get into the whys of that. I think we're all aware, but BCRSD's done a great job. You know, we've addressed a lot of issues. We've taken care of several. Lift stations were probably the biggest problem. We replaced several pumps. We still have 2 to go, and we budgeted for those to be taken care of in the new FY24, along with, you know, routine maintenance and cleaning, which is a lot of the problem, why these pumps were going bad to begin with. You know, all of our lift stations are checked at least once a week, if not twice. We have them scheduled for cleaning, which we utilize BCRSD's expertise and equipment to get them cleaned out thoroughly and help increase the longevity of these lift stations and pumps. And then moving on, I'll discuss some of our, if you recall, we had the SCEAP grant I&I inflow and infiltration study a couple of years ago. The goal was to work on some of that this year, and we have, but not to the level of what we wanted, simply because of all these issues of getting this our sewer division back on track. As we start to move out of catching up and with the woes of that division, and now we can really start to become proactive again in addressing a lot of these I&I problems. You know, when you get to what we all refer to as Old Town, more of the central district of Ashland, we still have a lot of clay sewer mains. Clay sewer mains are problematic. They see the most root intrusion, most susceptible to shifting, breaks, cracks, things of that nature. Where we have clay lines, clay mains that are in good shape, collection repairs is just our annual sewer line repairs, identifying those problem spots where we've had root penetration and backups coming in, and it'd be that fixing a low line, sag in a line, fixing a shifted line or a break, what have you, along with DCRSDs over and above invoicing, which usually is when we have to call them out for assistance with backups or main breaks or things of that nature. As we segue into some areas around the plant, some things that, again, have been neglected in its first year or two under operation were, just wear parts, wear items, UV bulbs, diffusers, crystals. Those are all an integral part of the disinfection process through our UV station, and that process needs to start up again next month. So we're going to be working on getting those things replaced and try and do it in a manner to where we can rotate, where we're not having to replace everything every 2 years, but we'd rather replace one bank of lights and quartz crystals and diffusers and whatnot each year, so that we're able to stretch that longevity out and have some spares on hand should something come up. Replacement of various plant operational items. There are several wear parts. The belt press is a large mechanical object, and it has wear items that we've had to address. We'll continue to work on that. The capital equipment, one thing I want to discuss on that. So the crane on the service truck was a project that we've been trying to do for a year and a half now. It always is kind of the low-hanging fruit whenever we have to make a cut, and have had to pull back, but we're going to try and get it again this year, where we will retrofit one of our existing service trucks with a crane, or if it's more cost effective, look at replacing that vehicle with a used one from, someone like Boone Electric or Ameren, to where it's more cost effective to just buy one that's already outfitted versus go through a retrofit process. The in-dump trailer that you see on our capital equipment list, this is a necessity simply because of what it is costing us to get rid of biosolids right now. It costs us approximately $1,800, $1,900 per load, and that load is 10 to 12 tons. We're paying $78 a ton currently, when we could be doing it ourselves for $55 a ton out of Columbia with their landfill. I've already spoken with them about that, and the testing requirements are the same testing requirements that we currently have. Where the real savings are garnered is by the purchase of that in-dump trailer. We no longer have to rent and pay for the service pickup fee for the roll-off container that we currently have been utilizing from Republic Services. Of that $1,800 that we see on each haul fee, about 800 of it, 800 to 900 of it is for actual tonnage, but the rest are rental fees, admin fees, pickup fees. I mean, it gets very expensive very quickly, and in a matter of 18 loads, we could have paid for this in-dump trailer, be doing it ourselves, and saved a vast amount of money. The other added benefit of purchasing this now is it is going to be a needed item for us to transition into land application of our biosolids. As many are aware, Diedrich Farms in the Hartsburg area currently utilizes biosolids from the City of Columbia for land application. They certainly have an agricultural benefit, and they've expressed interest in taking our biosolids also. However, that's part of your permit through DNR. I've been in contact with DNR regarding that, and their recommendation is to update our permit when it expires in May of 2024. So getting this in-dump trailer, getting the other skid loader assigned down there, those will be needed items for that process. And then we'll, as we get closer, we'll look at we're going to have to construct a storage pad, and I anticipate chasing a grant to do that through Solid Waste Management District. But the in-dump trailer will pay for itself in very short order and be something that we need in the future regardless.
Any questions?
Yeah, I got that. Is the permitting process in the works, is that, how far along the process is the new permitting?
So, we've not technically began that process yet. I was actually having a conversation this evening right before I came in here with Kyle Landwehr from Bartlett and West regarding that, and just a matter of when you're renewing that permit, staying in close contact with our DNR office, which is out of Macon. Troy Lalonde is the first point of contact for that, and so we've been in communication. When we start that process, we'll do it a little bit earlier so that we can work through the logistics and what our plans are and make sure that they're going to be approving of such. We anticipate that we won't have much issue simply because the individual that will be taking the biosolids is currently an approved procedure of such through another grant with Columbia. So we anticipate that that'll go pretty smoothly. We just have to show that how we're going to get our biosolids there, that they'll meet those same moisture level requirements and testing requirements and so forth.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? All right, so we've completed the department head request. Please take some time in the next couple of days. If you have any input, we'd appreciate it. Send me an email, send Kyle an email. Any questions that you may have or any ideas that you may have, we'd love to hear them. Or give us a call. If we don't hear anything, then we'll move on to the preliminary. And like I said, we'll review the entire packet. And if there's some changes that need to be made that we see, we'll make some changes. And then we'll present the preliminary budget to you at the next meeting. All right? I appreciate it. Thank you.
Moving on to appointments to boards and commissions. Richard Sullivan appointed to the Board of Adjustment. Can I get approval to appoint Richard Sullivan to the Board of Adjustments?
Make that motion.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Alderman Volkart?
Aye.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderwoman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Ode?
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Appointment of Chris Moore to the Board of Adjustments. I have a motion to appoint Chris Moore.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second. Yep.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderwoman Ode?
Aye.
Alderwoman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
And Alderman Volkart.
Aye.
Scheduled public comments. Just a reminder, make sure you get them in by Wednesday before the meeting so the city clerk can get that taken care of. Public hearings, I see none. Introductions of first readings are none. Old business is none. New business, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an addendum number 1 to the agreement for professional engineering services with Allstate Consultant LLC for the water line replacement project. Staff report, please.
Yeah, we don't have Mr. John Conway here. You have his report in your packet. As we've discussed periodically over the last year, we've pumped the brakes on the South Main Water Main Replacement Project in an effort to find some more funds and also make sure that we're able to repair that street after we tear it all up and get done with all the infrastructure work at one time. What you see before you is a resolution to amend the original engineering scope of services that will enable Allstate to design the road improvements and then rebid that entire packet. We originally denied the bids that came in due to the cost, so this project is being rolled, as we discussed earlier in the meeting, into the next fiscal year and will encompass the water main replacement as well as resurfacing of South Main.
Any questions for staff? So it'll be like a one and done, right?
Correct.
And this is already included in the budget, right? I mean, we just heard about this
Yep. Yep.
last time.
Can I get a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into addendum number 1 to the agreement for professional engineering services with Allstate Consultant LLC for the water line replacement project? Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Volkart?
Aye.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Bell? Alderman Ode?
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on. A a resolution authorizing the police chief to enter into a state plan of operation agreement with the Missouri State Police, or State of Missouri. Staff report, please.
Gabe is out sick. His report is in the packet. This is the state cooperative contract for acquiring DOD equipment. It was a contract the city was once a member of or a partner to, and they allowed that participation to expire. Gabe is just looking to renew that, so they have the ability to monitor that list, see what equipment is available, see if there's any cost savings that can be found by procuring equipment through this program.
Any questions for Kyle?
Do you know why it was allowed to expire? Like, was there a cost associated to it, or was it just an oversight, or?
I'm sure through the changeovers and chiefs, they neglected to renew at a time of renewal. I can't really speak to it.
The way this thing works, it is like Amazon. You go on and here's all this stuff. And on one day, it's like nothing you need or want, and some days it's crazy. At my last job, they got on there and got an all-terrain vehicle for the cost of picking it up. You can get a tank for nothing. I mean, it's crazy. But it's like eBay. It's constantly changing. You might look at it 300 times and not need a thing. You might get on there and buy half the stuff. But a lot of the stuff is just, if you're willing to go drive like to Michigan to get it, they'll give you a tank. It's crazy.
Is there a cost involved in it?
Not for being a member or a partner to the agreement, just obviously if they identify something that they want, they'll have to budget for it or come back
Sure,
with a
yeah.
budget amendment.
But no membership fee or anything?
But I would speculate, and I'm going to be clear, I'm speculating, you know, it's the kind of thing where we really need cameras, and there haven't been cameras on there in a while. It just give kind of, it's a constantly moving target about what's available. And some of it does have costs. It's like, we could certainly do that on our own, but don't have the money, that kind of thing.
Any other questions? No? Can I have a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the police chief to enter into the state plan of operation agreement with the state of Missouri?
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman O?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Plank? Aye. And Alderman Volker?
Aye.
Moving on to reports. I have a question about, I have a young lady that has a backyard that's heavily wooded, and it's not visible from the city street, it's not visible from the back, and she wants to know about the ordinance as far as letting it grow, because she doesn't want to pay somebody to mow it. I mean, our ordinance, I understand, is the height.
Yeah, I mean, there's a height requirement. It's primarily complaint driven, so I mean, it's going to be dependent on if we receive complaints. And Karen's not out there looking for long yards typically to notice to abate them.
I'll let her know that. David and I attended the ABC meeting last night, and one of their requests was from all the aldermen. They plan to be at our next meeting and want to talk to you guys about the disbursement of their funds, but they would like to know what you're looking for as far as what they have to do or prove so they can get dispersed this money, or some of this money.
Perhaps it's beneficial to have them do somewhat of a similar annual report to what Kip provided this evening, just so everyone is aware. I mean, most of you have either attended their events or seen them on Facebook, so you're kind of aware of what they've worked on, but that might be a good thing for them to report on for those that haven't been keeping tabs on them, as well as kind of their plans and efforts for the next year.
All right.
Unless there's anything particular that...
Is that the money that was,
Allotted for them back in 20...
wasn't that supposed to be for like an actual physical position to do something?
Yeah, but they do not have they don't have the, I guess, manpower to actually pay for somebody.
Yeah.
So they was like, you know, can we use part of it for this or part of it for that? And they want to help us with our, you know, Christmas lights. They want to help us do other things. So.
My only question, I don't know how official that is, but like, do we have to rediscuss what it can be used for since we
I
kind
think
of...
depending on how the conversation goes at the next meeting, we would likely have to come back at one of the April meetings, the first April meeting, and pass an ordinance to amend that distribution if there's a desire to do so.
So I'll inform them that they need to attend and have a worksheet.
I'll be seeing Izzy at 8, so I'll talk to her tomorrow morning.
Yeah, we need to go back and see how that was originally worded.
Yes.
If it was specifically for salary for a employee, we're gonna have to tweak that.
Next thing is trivia contest is the 14th. We still need 2 more players.
I think I bought a table for that.
She'll probably be in.
Yeah, I'm
Should
pretty,
probably be
Europe.
Europe, yeah, France.
I think I'm.
More importantly, I think they only have like 5 tables paid for right now, so
Yeah, we need some more
we'll
tables.
have to get some more people involved.
Yeah, I think I bought a table and I don't think my table's full.
I mentioned Ernie Wren and a few of those other guys that typically do trivia. They need to reach out to them. So if you know anybody that would like to have a table, please help them out. Because ABC is doing the fundraising on this trivia contest. The pothole on Broadway's been fixed, thank you very much. Had a phone call conversation from 2 different people on Pinto Pony parking.
Say that 3 times fast.
I know it, Pinto Pony parking. Kyle and I will discuss this later on, but this has been an issue with us for years. The street is too narrow for sidewalk parking, and people are piggybacking in the driveway, so they're blocking the sidewalks.
Yeah, so that street is a little short and also narrow, so it's got parking on one side, it looks like.
Yeah.
And then obviously you've got quite a few duplexes along there, so. It's on my list to circle up with Gabe tomorrow to discuss, but.
But Martin Builders talked to us a long time ago, before any of us, except you, were on the board, and they brought out those wing walls that I showed you a picture of, and it was shot down. On the parking, say if you have, here's your driveway, put a little wing wall on the side of it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, whoever owns those could certainly add more off-street
Yeah.
parking. Yeah, it's an idea.
Yeah. All right, and that is my report.
SBDC meeting tomorrow morning, chamber meeting Thursday morning. We'll be talking sales tax at both of those. Candidate forum, that is gonna be on the 20th. I think they're planning to start at 6:30 with city. Obviously, at this point, everyone's uncontested, but there's probably gonna be an expectation to participate, answer some questions. We'll have roughly an hour for city stuff, so talking sales tax and then questions for the 3 of you that are now running. I mean, you're still technically on the ballot, but
What's the date on that?
20th, yeah. And we will be doing that here again. We'll live stream it to our YouTube channel. More to follow on that.
266?
6:30.
6:30.
Yeah, that's the tentative time as of now. Once the chamber approves something official, since it's their event, and solidifies that time, I'll pass it along
It's Monday night.
Monday night. Nothing else to report.
All right, sir. City Attorney's report?
No report, I will have something for y'all in closed session.
Police chief report is not here. Board of Alderman report. Alderman Lewis.
No report.
Alderman Ode.
No report.
Alderman Bell.
We already talked about the stuff I've been getting some questions
Gutter.
about the, curbs. Got some questions about fencing today, and I think you answered it. But basically, if you put up a fence, it's a flat fee permit. Does someone actually come out and inspect your land or something?
Darren makes sure that the permit meets code requirements.
Okay. I think that's the only other contact I've gotten. Did we figure out the 4th of July?
ABC discussed it yesterday. I think their meeting minutes suggested that everybody wants it on the 4th. They haven't solidified a date yet, but that's the way they're leaning. If you have a strong opinion, put some pressure on them, because they're gonna take charge of the parade and all that as of now.
I would do it on the 3rd, but I'm not evening on the 3rd. So Jeff City's moving their parade to the morning of the 4th, and it's always been the evening of the 3rd. So it will be right on top of our parade if we don't move ours. So. Anyway.
No report.
Alderman Plank,
No report.
and Alderman Volkart.
No report.
All right. And we're moving on to general comments by the public. First one. No?
I just want to say, my name is Sherry Coley, and I'm
Please
from...
come to the
Oh,
podium.
sorry.
State your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Sherry Coley. I live at 4520 East Log Providence Road. And I traded messages with Kyle last week and with some of our concerns about Lakeside Ashland. And he said that they were meeting with the Lakeside Ashland people last week, and I was hoping to hear something tonight. Did you meet with them?
We did meet. As far as the event at this time, it appears they're operating within the confines of the conditional use permit. We are looking at what other requirements we need to account for. Specifically, the fire department has quite a few checklists for big events like that that need to be met, so we're making sure.
Will there be a discussion about it at any of the Board of Alderman meetings?
In terms of allowing the event to happen or not?
Oh, it's going to happen. I mean, there's nothing we can do, but we just have a lot of concerns about it.
I mean, it's really up to the board if they want to place something on the agenda to specifically discuss as it relates to Lakeside. You know, they have an approved conditional use permit. The board has not taken that permit back up to amend it in any way, so as long as he's operating within the confines of that permit.
And I assume everybody heard the interview he did on Saturday?
The roundtable
Yeah, with 95.3?
with Fred Perry and them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And he's going to tear down another building and add 200 more parking spots, and so, I assume that will require,
It has to come
permit
back to the
revisions, yes.
city, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll be back then. Okay, that's all.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. State your comment. Can I get a motion to, any other questions, comments from the public? Okay. We get a motion to vote to go into closed session. And a second? All in favor? Aye.
And we need to move down the hall. Yeah.
Because we can't turn the cameras off, or?
Yeah, it stops the recording here.
He works for Miko Construction, but he lives here in town.
Yeah. Got it. You ever been, you want the pack?
What?
So we're coming back.
Oh, we are? He lives here. He's a resident, and he works with Miko.
Respond to anything we find.
Or, it's engineering firm, but he just always,
He
he's
comes
done
back.
it since,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay.
Community, yeah.
Well, I'm glad I introduced myself.
Yeah.
He's super nice.
He is
His wife
super.
awesome too.
Yes, they
I
are.
think they're coming to the event this weekend, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, yep, they're very nice. Yeah, I'll be here watching it, okay?
Hill to the right, and then Nashville Church is to the left, or wherever the youth were out there. For a while. I mean, he's a nice guy.
Did you see that?
What?
The Twitter thing? It was
Mike.
bad. Was not pretty.
You'll be on Fox News for that one?
It hasn't been yet, but I wouldn't be surprised.
What's wrong? You made it onto a Twitter feed, you shouldn't have made it.
I'll tell you right after the meeting,
Okay.
after we adjourn.
Can we get a motion to open meeting, return to closed session?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Todd, would you like to report the findings?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I needed to do that. Yeah, we discussed the provisions for a marijuana ordinance. I will make corrections and revisions in light with the input of council and have, for new business at the next meeting, a draft of that comprehensive marijuana ordinance to address medical, recreational, and the handful of little details we discussed. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.